you guys for being here. Thank you guys for showing up. Obviously, this is a beautiful venue. For those that haven't been, enjoy it, of course. I'm the CEO. I'm Aaron Withe. My name's Aaron. I'm the CEO of the Freedom Foundation. We fight government unions. We do it in 4 ways. 1, we help every government worker in America to leave their unions and stop paying union dues. Since we've been doing that nationally in 2020, we've helped lead the largest decline of union membership in U.S. history. We also sue unions. I've got 10 attorneys on staff. All they do is sue unions. That's their jobs. If you're an attorney, good luck. And then third, we legislate. We pass legislation in beautiful states like Florida. We passed legislation in the legislature 2 years ago that mandated that unions must decertify when union membership falls below 60%. And we also banned the government's ability to take union dues from public employee paychecks. That piece of legislation has cost government unions in the great state of Florida $100 million. The last thing I'm going to say before I bring up my panelists is the 4th component of what we do is we figured out that teachers need an alternative in a lot of regards. So we started what we call the Teacher Freedom Alliance. And the new CEO of the Teacher Freedom Alliance is here with me tonight, Ryan Walters. And I'm going to do this because I have a large panel. I have 5 people with me today. I'm going to do this interview style, so I'm going to give our panelists 10 minutes each. And then we'll move on to the next one. So please join me in welcoming the full panel. I'll introduce them one at a time momentarily. Come on up, guys. Okay, so first I have with me Ryan Walters. Ryan, for those that don't know, is the former state superintendent in Oklahoma of public education. I first met Ryan, I think it was 3 years ago. Someone sent me a Fox News clip that said, hey, it's probably a good idea that we should pay teachers based on meritocracy and not how long they've been in the classrooms. I was like, oh yeah, that's like a pretty good idea. And the teachers' unions just went after him, and I was like, oh, that's my guy. So anyway, he started I think this is your 3rd week on the job, Ryan? Okay, yeah, so he's now the CEO of the Teacher Freedom Alliance. So Ryan, why don't we start there? You've got a background fighting teachers' unions. Why are they a problem?
Yeah, no, thank you, Aaron, and I love what the Freedom Foundation is doing. We partner with them on these efforts. And folks, the teachers' unions are the biggest force for destruction in our country right now. I just want to be crystal clear on that. These are the groups that push DEI into our schools, transgenderism into our schools, and as Paul pointed out, they're the ones that shut down schools during COVID. You had kids saying, I want to go back to school. You had good teachers saying, I want to go back to school. You had parents saying, yeah, our kids need to be in school. And the unions held out for hundreds of billions of dollars of a ransom from the federal government. They didn't care about your kids. They didn't care about our education system. They sure didn't care about academics. What they cared about was money going to their pockets from their union members, money going to their pockets from the federal government, and using that to push their left-wing agenda through a power structure that is incredible. They're a money laundering scheme for the Democrat Party. Over 90% of their dues go into Democrat candidates. They know what they're doing, and folks, they've got millions of members, and when we go out across the country and go, do you support DEI? We get teachers who go, no, we don't. Go, do you support transgenderism being forced onto our kids? No. Well, why are you in the teachers' union paying for these things? And so we've had members from all over the country, every state, that have joined. But folks, I saw in Oklahoma, we led the biggest reforms in the country in Oklahoma in education. First state to ban DEI. First state to have school choice. We're talking about faith here today a lot. We were the first state to bring the Bible back to the classroom. Absolutely. How do you understand American history without the Bible being part of your history class, right? Guess who fought us and sued us every step of the way? Aaron mentioned merit pay. Guess who sued us on every one of those? The teachers union. They tried to stop every meaningful reform. They attacked the teachers. They attacked parents. They attacked reforms. Folks, they are out to turn our country into a Marxist dumpster fire. We have to defeat the teachers unions to get our schools back on track and absolutely to get the country back on track.
Amen. Amen, brother. So, Ryan, new role for you. Teacher Freedom Alliance, for those that don't know, started about 6 months ago. How are you going to do that? How is the Teacher Freedom Alliance going to do that?
Folks, we've got to have strategy in order to do that, right? So how do you do it? How do you defeat the monstrosity that is the teachers union? Well, we've got a simple plan. First is opt out of the teachers union, right? Optouttoday.com was launched to go, hey, we will walk you through it. Get out. So first of all, leave the union. But folks, as you know, the battle just starts there, doesn't it? What happens to teachers once they leave the union? They're brutally attacked. Legally, frankly, physically, we see them being doxxed. We see them being threatened to go back into their schools, go back to work. We have teachers who go, I'd love to leave, but what happens next? That's what the Teacher Freedom Alliance is for. We say, not only do we want you to leave, we want you to join, and we've got your back. They come after you to sue you, we've got your back. We'll win those court cases. Liability insurance, professional development. This is the other part. You know how every state requires teachers to go to these trainings? Even once you leave the union, guess what they do? All right, come over here and learn about 27 genders today in your math and professional development. We offer all their professional development. So that way, we will teach you, we will help train you in academics, not indoctrination. And the last thing we do, we teach you how to fight back against the teachers union. Folks, we're creating an army here of teachers that say, no more. We stand with parents. We believe that no one knows best for their kids and their parents. We believe in America, American values. We're unapologetic about that. And we believe that education opens doors. And we reject woke indoctrination wholesale.
I see why I hired this guy, right? All right, last question for you, Ryan. So I've spent a lot of time thinking about this personally, but I'm sure you have too. What does America look like without the teachers' unions?
Well, first, let's heaven. That's a great answer. That's a great answer. Well, folks, let's start with where it is today. What do you see in our schools today? You see kids that hate this country. Kids that believe the only thing to know about Thomas Jefferson is that he's a slave owner. Think about how ridiculous that is. I've heard that in teacher trainings to emphasize the racism of Thomas Jefferson, and don't talk about the Declaration of Independence. Don't emphasize that document because it doesn't mean anything coming from a racist in a racist country. You go from that hate, that anti-Americanism, and if your schools go back to academics and actually promote America, actually say these are our values, no matter your political persuasion, America's values and principles are something we have to aspire to, we have to understand, or this no longer cease to be a good country. We do that, America can be great again by making the classrooms great again. You produce citizens that love this country, and you get America back on track. I didn't even get into what academics mean for jobs, what academics mean for the economy. Think about a country where the school is you pay teachers based on merit. Parents are put at the emphasis of everything around their child, and the focus is on academics and pro-America education, folks. The future is bright if we win this war, and we will win this war, but it will be a fight.
Thank you, Ryan. Dr. Corbin Hoornbeek, I'm saying that right? You got it. Okay, perfect. Yeah, with the accent, right. President of the University of Northwestern. Thank you for joining us here today, Dr. Corbin. Higher education has been under attack recently, and candidly, I think rightfully so, but the University of Northwestern, you guys are different. You're running a quality Christian school. What makes you guys different? And then perhaps you could commentate a little more broadly on some of the attacks that we've seen on education today.
You bet. Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. My bride, Heather, is also here with us today, so thank you so much. You know, there is probably no more industry in America since COVID that has been disrupted than higher education. You know, the great departure happened after COVID. I don't think there was any industry that lost more people than education, from kindergarten all the way up through college education and beyond that. And so, you know, there's a big question. Why would you stay in it? This is a great time to be in higher education. This is a great time to be in education. As you shared, we need people in Christian higher education. The University of Northwestern St. Paul, our second president was the Reverend Billy Graham. And so I stand on the shoulders of some great former presidents. Here's how we describe ourselves. theologically conservative, and culturally engaged. Theologically conservative and culturally engaged. What does that mean? Theologically conservative means that we believe that the scriptures are true. We believe in the inerrancy, the infallibility, and the authority of Scripture. And we believe that we understand the world and how God is working in the world, and we understand what is true through the lens of Scripture. That matters because every academic discipline, and I think we understand Christian education in lots of different forms. The reality is, scriptures have something to say about history and economics and politics and education and every single subject. And so our approach is not just to have scripture be an add-on to what we do, but to actually see the world through the lens of scripture and to understand the contour of God's work in the world. The second part of that, theologically conservative and culturally engaged. If you look into the scriptures, you will see the call of God on our lives to be involved in every part of culture, to be culture changers, to be culture transformers, to be in the work of changing the world around us. And so we prepare and educate students to be theologically conservative, to have a strong grasp of Scripture, but to be ready to go into the world.
So, I wish that there were more university presidents like you that would just say that, just the way that you did. How do you go about doing that, though? I mean, you've got kids coming from probably all walks of life, right? How do you make sure that kids are prepared not just to go into the workforce, but to go out as Christians into the world and meaningfully make a difference for Jesus Christ, and not just for working for the sake of working, for the sake of earning money and all the rest of it?
Let me talk about the first three letters of the word university. U-N-I, uni. There has to be some sense of coherence around understanding what truth is in the world. Most of our universities are not universities, they are multi-universities. They are universities in places that have no grounding in truth, that have no understanding of the world in which we are living and operating, and therefore they lose a total sense of reality of the world in which we live. This year, we launched a brand new program called the Classical Christian Honors College at the University of Northwestern. It is a return to a deep grounding in the classics. It's a return to the deep understanding that truth is both objective and it can be known and it can be discovered, and we do that through a deep exploration of the great books, including the Bible. The beautiful thing about the Classical Christian Honors College is we don't want to just educate smart kids, we want to educate students who are marketplace ready. And so if you are in the Classical Christian Honors College, it's a required double major. You earn a major in great books and ideas, and you earn a major in engineering or business or accounting or some other degree. We want students to be formed in their minds and their hearts and their souls, and we want them to be marketplace ready.
So, for the audience here today, should there be optimism for higher education? Should I want my daughter to go to school, is what I'm trying to ask.
If you were an investor, you would not invest your money in the future of higher education. Unfortunately, we're not investing for a financial return. I am, by nature, an incredible optimist. You have to be, but you also have to know the threats. And I make lists of the threats that are facing us, both as a university at the state level, at the regional level, at the national level. But I'm incredibly optimistic. But I would say we have to be cautious. There is a caution with that. Where we send our kids to college does matter. Where we send our kids to school at the K-12 level does matter. What our children and our kids are being taught does matter. I will say that teaching students how to think is more important than teaching them what to think. I think universities, our country began with this wonderful expression called the public square. The public square was where people came to debate and discuss ideas. It was where people came to learn from each other and sometimes to get in fights over ideas. But the reality is that I think the Christian message for us is that we have the best ideas in the world. Those ideas can compete with any other ideas in the world. So we should be educating our students on how to think, not just what to think. That makes me optimistic about higher education.
And I think that runs very counter to a lot of large universities today. They are very focused on teaching, on indoctrination rather than teaching them what's big. So kudos to you for being different there. Last word. I want some commentary on this for you. I didn't prep you on this question, so I apologize in advance. There has been a rising of anti-Semitism in the past couple of years, specifically on campuses. One, have you seen any of that at University of Northwestern? Have you dealt with that, or do you have some general thoughts on it?
We had zero protests on the campus of the University of Northwestern. Our students are supportive of Israel. We love Israel, and we absolutely no protests on our campus.
Good, good. I'm going to skip over to Willy G first for a second. Willy G, because I can't pronounce his last name, is what I was told. The Roman Catholic, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So you're educating people in a different way. Tell us about your mission.
Hold this mic 1 second.
God's got this. Everybody's got these shirts here in Palm Beach County, all the priests and all the educators and stuff, and Bishop, Christian on the mission, go make a difference. I've got a bunch of shirts in the green room, so if you like my talk, I'll give you a shirt.
Okay, so you're just handing out t-shirts, that's the deal?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Then we'll move on short. No, I'm joking. Okay, so you've got a good pulse on society. What are your observations? You're going around Palm Beach, right? So what are your observations? Are you bullish? Are you bearish? What do you think about the future of America right now?
How many people are from Palm Beach County here right now? Maybe half, okay. My biggest job is to make the bishops do what they're supposed to do, the Catholic bishops and the Catholic priests. I serve as the president of the Palm Beach County Right to Life League. I started Pro-Lifers for Trump back in 2016, and I worked his campaign, and meeting with him was phenomenal, and he's got a couple of these shirts. So my thing is, why did we come so close to almost losing the vote no on 4 on abortion? 57%. And if it would have, 60% what we had to win by. And to think that 54% of Catholics in Palm Beach County voted for abortion, think about that. Okay, as the president, we have closed 3 Planned Parenthoods down in a span of 12 months. Never been done in this country. That's one county, never been done in this country. Give yourselves a hand for Palm Beach County. I think it all starts there with pro-life. That's the biggest right to life. And you're just meeting with all the Catholic priests and bishops. My best friends are the priests that have been defrocked. Father Frank Pavone is no longer a priest, and he's one of my best friends. Bishop Strickland also was moved from Tyler, Texas, and he's no longer a bishop with the diocese. Father James Altman, the same thing. So it's all the priests that speak the truth, that are bold, that are people like up here on the stage. Those are my best friends. So when they come to Palm Beach County, they stay at my log home, they stay with me. Those are my spiritual directors. So I'm trying to get to the seminary now, and I met with Kristen Hawkins, who is in charge of Students for Life, and I know there's a bunch of Students for Life here in Turning Point, guys. And with her, we want to have a big meeting at the seminary with 85 seminarians and get those young guys when they're 21, 23, 25, and teach them about pro-life. Teach them what God has taught us and what Jesus taught us. We're all created His image and likeness. And if you get that as a 23-year-old seminarian, when you graduate at the age of 31 and you become a priest, you're not going to be afraid to go to that almighty pulpit and speak about pro-life and speak about abortion. That is why we almost lost the vote no on 4. Now think about the bishops, and I hope to God there's no bishops here, and I know James O'Keefe is here, because that's my guest here. Don't be taking any notes or anything. But anyway, when we were going to vote no on 4, the bishop said we're going to jump on it because it was a 60-40 vote. I guarantee if it would have been a 50-50 with the 51 majority, they would have said, no, this isn't our fight. Since it was 60-40, they said, let's go ahead and let's get involved with this. And that's the only reason why. So that's my extension here. As far as dealing with the bishops and priests, it starts right there. You have to talk to them.
I've just been told there's going to be a reception afterwards. So you guys chit-chatting in the back. There's going to be plenty of time for that at the end. There's going to be food, all that kind of stuff. You guys can keep it down. This is a beautiful ballroom. But that guy back there, I can hear you back here. So if you wouldn't mind keeping it down back there, that would be appreciated. Willie G, back to you, my friends.
Thank God you said that. He's 6'7". I'm not going to say that.
You've done some basketball coaching, right?
Referee.
Okay, referee. Okay, so talk to me about the role in basketball and your faith. How have you managed to intermix the two? How have you managed to use basketball as kind of a projection point?
I used to run the biggest basketball camps in South Florida and Miami for 21 years. 17,000 kids came to my camp, ages 5 to 17. I refereed NCAA basketball in the SEC. I used to pray before every game, and people would look at me and say, what's this guy doing here? They knew that I was very Christian, and a lot of these people didn't agree with it, but that's the way I was. And we did have a lot of coaches and players that were very Christian, but they didn't want to come out and really, wear it on their sleeves. Running my camps, 200 kids at a time, I used to talk about God all the time. Mind you, we had a bunch of Jewish kids at our camp and everything. They're the ones that helped me, pay for my log home. And they would come out here, we'd have all the Christian Catholic kids and everything. We'd be singing, our God is is a great God. And, they would go home and say, wow, Mom, you should see what we did at camp today. So it was just really interesting that these Jewish kids would go back to Temple Betham and say, wow. And we were the #1 camp in South Florida. Pat Riley's daughter grew up at my basketball camp. We competed against UM, FIU, Miami-Dade, Barry University, and we were #1. People knew that I was a very, very devout Christian. So parents wanted to send their 5-year-old kid to a place where they knew that they were going to get an education. People would say, Willie, man, you really, really, love basketball. Guys, I love basketball about this much. I love kids like this much. And that's what brought those kids to camp over and over again. And, the faith thing comes in where everything that I do is God's got this. So it doesn't matter if I'm speaking here and might be nervous, which I never am. I love to speak in public. I mean, it's kind of tough with this mic here because I actually tested positive for COVID this morning. Just want to tell you, positive that we're going to change this country around because of the Christian and the pro-life faith and because of the God that lives here at Mar-a-Lago. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Willie. All right, moving on. Actually, one more thing, Willie. How can people get involved? How can they support what you're doing? You've got a lot of Palm Beach County people here. How can they support what you're doing?
Christian on a Mission, just look me up there. My best thing is I have the 305 number. Pitbull says he's the original 305. I'm the original 305. 305-610-2992, Willy Guardiola at yahoo.com. And that's the best way to get a hold of me. And trust me, people know who I am. And when I was in Miami, when people would move from New York and they had a couple of kids, and they would say, hey, I'm new here, I got a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, where can we send with basketball? Call Willie G. That was basketball. Now, it's a whole different thing. When people move here from New York and they say, hey, I want to get involved with the Catholic Church or the pro-life movement, call Willie G. And it's always been the same way. So I appreciate everybody being here. I've been here with President Trump many a times, and it's just a pleasure and an honor, especially the people that are here for the first time. We have the best president that we've ever seen in our lifetime. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Okay, Doug Napier, the chairman of the 1792 Exchange. I'm upset to say that I didn't know the 1792 Exchange before looking you up. So perhaps I'm alone in that, but perhaps you can tell everybody what it's about.
Sure, thank you. It's great to be here. 1792 Exchange is actually a nonprofit that's focused primarily on corporate behaviors. It was formed about 4 years ago when we realized how much influence corporations have on culture. So you're probably wondering, what does that have to do with higher education? I'll get to that in a second. But think about the billions of dollars that flow through companies that influence our advertising, and those advertisements tell a story. They communicate what the American family looks like, what American values are, and they usually don't sync up with really what those values are. They distort them, but they influence them. The higher education part is, and I'm going to say something that's probably obvious to everybody in this room, is we know that universities are the breeding grounds and the feeding grounds of ideas that make their way from the universities into the marketplace. They get incubated in the universities as theory, they get hatched in the marketplace as practice, and actually they find their way into the handbooks of most of the major corporations. And what happens then is these ideas, and every idea has consequences, and bad ideas have victims. And those ideas get put in the corporations. It infects the HR department primarily, and then they have all of their DEI objectives that are now mandated, and in corporate executives are actually giving bonuses and incentives in their compensation to actually embrace a model that doesn't work. It's not based on meritocracy. It's based on things that divide and not unify. And so when we started thinking about how this has really corrupted the marketplace, that where are these bad ideas coming from? Of course, they're coming upstream. So we are undertaking an additional data project. We're very data driven. We have profiled 3,700 public companies. In fact, some of you in this room are using our data to put together wealth management portfolios and to do value-aligned investing, because we go through all these companies and we see, are you at risk of being canceled because of your conservative views, because of your faith? You're going to be debanked because your organization doesn't uphold to their orthodoxy, but rather the orthodoxy. And so we profile all these companies, and we've profiled the boards of directors for about 250 of these. And we've looked at their proxy votes and how they're voting their shares, and are they voting in line with shareholder values, or are they serving stakeholders that aren't even owning stock? So as we look upstream in the university, we see that we've got to do the same thing at that level, and that's shine a light on evil. We've done it in the corporate world effectively. We're seeing people move out. We've got a very friendly administration right now who's basically signing executive orders saying if you're doing DEI stuff, stop it. We have a Supreme Court that says if you're doing this at your universities, it's discriminatory and illegal. And we've got now DOJ and the Department of Labor memos going out saying you got to stop this stuff. But it hasn't been stopped at the university level yet. And we talked about anti-Semitism. We saw the Trump administration come out very strongly against universities that are engaged in that. The way to do this is cut off the funds, both from the federal government and the state government side, but don't send them your tuition dollars. Send them to Northwestern. Send them to schools that are going to hold those dollars. Why would you spend your dollars sending your kids away where they're going to be browbeat and pushed into the corner? One of the things that we really liked about TPUSA and Turning Point, what they're doing on campus, is they're trying to reopen the campus to be a free marketplace of ideas. They have civil discourse and debate because the professors won't allow it. If you bring it up in your class, you're going to get a bad grade. So what do? You be quiet. So we want to take on the universities and we'll start with the business schools because they're the ones that are sending their HR managers into the corporations with all these great ideas. And the MBA programs, I was just looking on Columbia's business school website a couple days ago, and you can see the syllabus for the classes that they have on diversity training, the foundations of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm sure that's very interesting and very practical. And you're going to take tuition dollars. I also noticed that it was canceled in the spring of 2025, and I think Trump might have had something to do with that.
Doug, a question very impressive what you're doing. Is that scalable? I mean, is that something that we can do in a significant way?
Yeah, I mean, because of our research model, we started out with 1,000 companies, the Fortune 1000, we kept expanding that. I think you start with a few schools, and what happens when you shine the light on the behaviors of some, the others are looking around and say, are we doing that? And they are. And the life cycle is universities send their brainwash students into the business world. They're the ones that are making decisions on hiring, and they're also making decisions on marketing. They're making decisions on charitable donations. So just recently, we had a phone call from somebody that worked for a major Fortune 100 company. They tried to make a matching donation to Turning Point USA. Because a lot of companies have matching donations. They were turned down because this company uses a third-party firm called Withe. Withe uses the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate map. And if you want to learn more about that, I think Tyler O'Neill's here, he's in the back of the room, just wrote a great story on this last week, revealing the fact that these corporations are using this discredited hate map to say, oh, we're not going to give matching funds to these organizations, which just happen to be the conservative Christian organizations. So we got to shine a light on that too. Yeah, it's scalable. We just take them on one by one, and we just little by little pull the curtain back and see them scurry.
Yeah, so obviously over the last few years, I've observed it, presumably everybody else in this room has too, is that the wokeism in America and the targeting of conservative organizations, Turning Point USA, Freedom Foundation, go through the list of all these groups, that's become like mainstream. I think that tide is starting to turn. But perhaps you can talk about why do you think that the left seems to have like a carve out for their radicalism and like ideas like, oh, perhaps guys shouldn't play in girls' sports are like ostracized today?
Well, you know, I think you made the point. Our ideas are better. They're just not spoken because we've been intimidated because of the violence or the anger or the outbursts. And I think that the solution is we've got to start taking a stand, a principled stand, a nonviolent stand, and get those ideas out there. I think we can do that. I think we have to change culture both within and without, and what I mean by that is we have to send people from Northwestern into these companies with principled values and values of neutrality, and that's actually sure the shareholders. We've got wealth managers here. We've done a great project with Trump Media. They're issuing 5 ETFs using our data. When you do that, it puts pressure on these companies to reform their behaviors and get back to business. I mean, that's really what we want them to do. So yeah, I think there is a solution there. I think there's hope there. The left have had kind of a chokehold, partly because we've self-centered and partly because of the response. When Charlie was assassinated, we sent a letter to the Fortune 1000 companies and basically said more diplomatically this, but you've got blood on your hands because you've created these environments in your companies. You've created identity politics. You've created a framework of oppressed versus oppressor. And that violence and that violent reaction has flooded into the broader culture, and then you get a tragedy like Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, you can't go around calling people on the right Nazis and threats to democracy and then be surprised when one of us gets shot and killed on national television. Well, thank you for doing that. How do people support... well, actually, let me ask this first. Are you concerned at all about... I see this shift of people going towards the right, specifically in the last 6 weeks. But I've also seen the radicalization of the left, specifically Mondami, the person who's running for the mayor of Minneapolis. Are you concerned that the left is also becoming more emboldened?
Well, I think they've always been bold. I think that they are actually scared right now because I think that our ideas are coming to the forefront. We have a great president who's speaking truth, and we have, I think, a framework, churches, schools that are speaking out on this. So I think they're scared, and I think when you get scared, you become more violent, which is unfortunate. But I think we have some momentum now, and it's a moment in history that we have to seize.
Amen. Amen. How can people support what you're doing, Doug? How can they get involved?
They can go to our website. We don't have a general file. We are supported by major donors who like our work, and our goal is to become obsolete.
It's a C3?
It is a C3.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Mikey McCoy, for those that don't know, Mikey is the Chief of Staff at Turning Point USA. Mikey, of course, I want to start by sorry for your loss. It seems not just a loss to you, but for everybody. I mean, Charlie Kirk was everywhere. I mean, I knew him in a small way, but it seems like everybody knew him, not just because of his reach online and the messages that he was putting out there. So I want to start by, of course, sorry for where we're at right now, but I want to start on a positive note, and that's in the aftermath. I've been very encouraged by the outpouring of support, not just for Turning Point USA, for Christians and conservatives generally. How are you seeing momentum start to shift at Turning Point?
Yeah, so just so everybody is aware, I was Charlie's chief of staff as well for 6 years, so I had the opportunity to travel with him for oftentimes every waking moment. But since Charlie's assassination, we've seen an incredible amount of people wanting to get involved in Turning Point. Chapter inquiries, so this is for our high school, college programs. We're sitting at over 130,000 students who have reached out wanting to start a chapter on their campus, whether that be high school or college. And then we've started 3,000 new chapters. This is all since September 10th. We've had over 115,000 students for the first time ever come to a Turning Point USA chapter meeting. So these are students that before 9/10 probably weren't that involved in politics, and now they're starting to care about America again. And so there's a great harvest. Even in our TPUSA Faith program, we doubled our church affiliates. We're at 8,000 now. We have 200,000 people that signed up to be part of TPUSA Faith. People are reaching out, getting Bibles for the first time since Charlie's assassination. You see church attendance is at an all-time high for the past 10 years. Some statistics go even further than that. And so you're seeing these massive wins across the board, but there's still a lot of questions on what comes next culturally, because for Gen Z and for young people in general, Charlie was this guiding light, this North Star for them. And so now him being gone leaves a lot of questions. And so I know that you had a question on that, but I'll just riff, which is just that, you know, two words come to mind. This is something that was really important to Charlie, is hope and courage. And so that was the cornerstones of Charlie. And so hope sees the world as it could be. Courage steps into the fire to make that a reality. And courage without hope is reckless. Hope without courage is just a dream. And so for Gen Z and young people right now, Charlie did an incredible podcast with Tucker Carlson a couple months ago. You guys can look back and he talks about this. But on that podcast, he talks about Gen Z and young people, how they came out in droves in the 2024 election to vote for Trump. And you saw the youth vote win in Michigan. You saw a 13-point shift across the board in Gen Z. And Charlie saw this as young people trying to get the attention of leaders for a reason. So Gen Z and young people have a lot of courage right now. They want to stand up, they want to do something, but they feel a little hopeless. And that hopelessness leads to a little bit of recklessness. And so we're hopeless that maybe we're not going to be able to afford a home one day. We're reckless in that maybe we're going to turn to violence in the streets and protests. We're hopeless that maybe we're not going to have a job when we graduate college. And then you're seeing the data that for the first time for young men, graduating men of college have the same joblessness rate as men who didn't go to college in the same age bracket. And so they're graduating college with a ton of debt to go find jobs that don't exist, that hopefully one day they'll be able to buy a house, but the data is against them. In 2010, it was 30 years old to buy a house. Now it's 38 years old is the average age to buy a home. And so all the odds are stacking up against young people, and they're making a statement, which is, if things don't change economically, we're going to get radical politically. And that's where you see this crossing in the road where it breaks off in two different directions, where young people need to take accountability or make a decision in their life. And for the ones that want radical change, why are we surprised when Zohran Mamdani is going to be the next mayor of New York City? Young people want change, and they're hopeless, but they have courage, and so they say, Zohran Mamdani's the change for us. And so they go and look to him, and they hope that maybe he'll bring the change that they're hoping for. But he's misguided. He's a socialist candidate that's promising rent control and state-run grocery stores and BDS laws against Israel, and that he's going to arrest foreign leaders if they step foot in his municipal power. These are radical ideas. But this is where Turning Point comes in, Charlie. This is why we started this Charlie started this organization. This is what he warned about. And this is what we're continuing our mission to do, is to give the young people a mission. We're the North Star. We're the return of hope. And so for a lot of our students on campus, you would think that if someone's assassinated for participating in free speech and dialogue, that maybe people wouldn't speak up anymore. But that's not the case. We have 130,000 students wanting to start a chapter. And then on top of that, so they are courageous. They're ready. They don't care if there's a threat in front of them. And 2 days ago, we had a faculty at a school in Illinois come and flip a Turning Point USA table that a student was running. And these students are fired up and they want to do prove me wrongs on their campus the way that Charlie used to. They get spit on, they get attacked, they get punched. And they're courageous, but they're given hope. And that hope comes from Turning Point for a lot of these students, from Charlie. So that's the mission. Sorry, that's kind of the intro on Turning Point in Charlie's life. But we're not slowing down. We're not going to push the brakes at any point. We're full speed ahead to continue the mission that Charlie started.
Powerful. There's a lot of directions I want to go with this, but I want to, for people that may be supporters in the room, programmatically, you have this, the first question that comes to my mind, you have this wave of support of people that want to do something. They want to stand up, they want to start a college chat, they want to do these things. They're getting attacked by the left for doing so. What programmatically does Turning Point deliver on to give these people, to give them power, to give them a voice, and then what are you doing to further their education away from what they're often being taught ideologically at universities?
Yeah, the wokeism chamber on higher education and universities as a whole. And there's great universities. But yeah, what we're doing is when your kids are young, they get involved in Turning Point Academy. We have our Blexit program. We have our National Field Program, which is our colleges and our chapters on college campuses. We have our Club America program, which is high school chapters that students can start. We have TPUSA Faith. And so all of these programs fall under the umbrella of Turning Point USA. And so that was, Charlie viewed it as though it was a publicly traded company, even though we're a 501c3. You know, every winter he would have an investor meeting where our donors would gather and you would give them an investor update, because you're investing in the future of America, because these young people don't have direction anymore, and so you are investing in their future. And so that's kind of how he started it. And so there's a lot of moral inconsistencies, is what I call them, and when it comes to fear on the left. You brought up the SPLC. SPLC has a hate watch program, hate list, and Family Research Council. I think this was in 2012, is that right? When someone came into the Family Research Council's office in Washington, D.C. and said they were going to mass murder everybody in the building. And when asked why they were going to do that, they said, because of the SPLC's hate watch program. Yeah, and then, so on September 9th, the SPLC puts out a newsletter saying that Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk are on the hate list program. September 10th, Charlie's dead. And I'm not saying the SPLC had anything to do with that, but this is an overarching problem when it comes to the radicalization on the left. And so this last week you see in the news that everybody's trying to draw the line in comparison between a Young Republicans group chat that was leaked and Jay Jones running for Attorney General. There is no moral, you cannot compare the two. It's a false moral equivalence. It does not exist. The left is continuing to go further left. You would think after the 2024 election that they would say, maybe men and women's restroom, that 80-20 issue, maybe we should step away from it. No. Omar Fateh in Minneapolis. Zohran Mamdani in New York City. Jay Jones running for Attorney General. And for those of you who don't know, he threatened the life of a sitting politician in the House, and then on top of that said that he wanted his children to die. So I go on the news, and they're comparing that to a young Republican group chat. No, the left goes out in public at a No Kings rally and celebrates the death of an assassinated political opponent. The right has leaked group chats. Out of context, off-color joke group chats. And if you're going to ask us to ask me to condemn young people for off-color jokes in a group chat that was leaked, these are private conversations, and I'm going to have to condemn 1/5 of the college population that makes jokes in private group chats. And there is no moral comparison. And the young people know this. And things need to change. And that's why Turning Point's giving them a voice and getting them on the right direction and path. But this is a growing thing that the left is going to try to compare moral consistencies with, if I can compare a YR group chat to threatening to kill children, then I can get away with a lot more. I can get a communist elected in New York City. I can get, crazy protests on college campuses. I can claim that it's free speech when they celebrate the death of a political opponent in a classroom. These are problems. Not a lot of people are pointing them out. Turning Point USA is. That's the mission Charlie started. That's what we're continuing to do.
I'm going to ask how people can help you later, Mikey. But before I get to that, I want to. This is a very dark topic, and prior to September 10th, this country has felt like it's been leading down the wrong track. But I've been very encouraged since then, and perhaps you can talk. Where does faith fit into all this? Part of this CRT meeting is faith, Christianity. Where does that fit in to all of this in your mind?
Yeah, I have a speech I'm giving on Friday, and I wrote a line in there talking about courage and hope. But when Charlie died, he lived on, and he didn't really die because he put his hope in something bigger than himself. And so Charlie's cornerstone of everything was his faith. And I talked about this on the podcast yesterday about how Charlie lived his faith. It was the cornerstone of everything he did. But he quite literally died at the peak of his faith when it came to how much he dived into scriptures and wanted to understand the Bible and brought out Frank Turk. The day Charlie died, Frank Turk was there, and the entire flight over, he was prepping on scriptures. He had a big binder with Bible verses because that tour he wanted to lead more students to Christ. And so that's the challenge that we also bring at Turning Point when it comes to TVUSA Faith. That maybe one day when you die, wouldn't it be nice to say, I died at the peak of my faith, didn't just live my faith? And so we have a big program, it's called TVUSA Faith. We have Freedom Night in Americas that we put on every single month at churches across America. We have a monthly one in Arizona, churches to get involved, but it's also for churches to understand how to get involved, not necessarily politically, but morally, and how to speak up. And that program came out of COVID when you could see Planned Parenthood and weed dispensaries and strip clubs in California were allowed to be open, but the churches had to shutter their doors. And pastors didn't speak up, they didn't open their doors, people were depressed, they couldn't get counseling, they couldn't worship. And we said, no more of that. We're going to start emboldening pastors, giving them the courage that they need, equipping them with the resources that they need, and start massive, massive events, not just on college campuses, but on churches too. And so that's our faith program aspect of it. And his faith is the cornerstone. Our nonprofit, Turning Point USA, is still the cornerstone of our mission.
Absolutely. Mikey, I'm going to get to my last question because these guys are going to pull me in a second.
I want to add something before we go.
Oh, please don't love that.
No, before let me know. No.
We got plenty of time. We're changing the clocks in about 2 weeks, so we're fine. The last time I saw Charlie Kirk was a year ago at the Turning Point USA. It was the biggest Turning Point USA conference that we've ever had. President Trump was the keynote speaker. I gave him one of these guys, got this t-shirt, gave him a fist bump. I said, I love you. It's the last time I saw him. My birthday's September 10th. It was the worst day of my life. When I saw what happened on TV and I said, wow, my whole life just turned upside down. Now, all you people here in Palm Beach County, you know what happened there with the school board, and one of their people there said something really, really bad about Charlie Kirk. I'm leading the fight. All of you people were at my house the day it came out. We've had rallies against the school board, and we're going to remove a gentleman named Edwin Ferguson. Thank you. Give it up, give it up. Edwin Ferguson happens to be black. Nice person and everything, but he's being literally, I mean, all the money behind the NACCP and everything, and they're all being paid and all that stuff. So we got a big fight, and I'm not going to give up. I'm just starting this thing. So please keep me in your prayers. And if you're in Palm Beach County, see me outside here, and we'll exchange numbers and stuff, and you might get a shirt. Thank you.
Mikey, one more. My observation is that the left in America, the radical left in America, I'll say today, compared to us, we have faith, we have religion, we have recreation, we go on hikes, we have fun, we have friends, we go to church, we have God. The left today, the radical left in America, it seems that their God is found in social media, on gaming, whatever controls, and like Reddit pages, like all that stuff. And it seems to me that it's going to hit a tipping point at some point with these radical leftists that are just, that is the religion, that's what they're in. I think that there are many on the radical left today that's what they've been emboldened by. So perhaps you could comment on that, and then please close with telling people how they can support Turning Point USA and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I don't think it's just the left on social media and maybe it's video games, but I definitely think that social media is one of the biggest things in reaching the youth, especially when it comes to young, conservatives that maybe aren't bold enough to speak up about their beliefs. So in 2024, Charlie had the third largest TikTok account when it came to views and engagement in the world. Bigger than Taylor Swift, bigger than Kamala Harris, he had the third biggest in the world. Above him was Team Trump and Trump's TikTok account. And so you wonder, okay, 13-point shift, youth vote won in Michigan, maybe we're doing something right here. And maybe this is giving us some answers why Trump is, gonna close a deal with TikTok, and TikTok is, there's all these questions that people have, and you just dig a little deeper and you find the answer. But it's a great harvest on social media when it comes to young people and how to reach them. That's what we do great. Charlie's social media account, Erica's social media account, Turning Point USA social media account, our engagement is at an all-time high. This is how we really reach out to young people to get them involved for the first time. But I will say that when it comes to feeling fulfilled in life, the right does a better job. And that's where faith comes in, Christianity comes in. We are a Christian nation. It gives you direction and fulfillment in your life. That's what Charlie would always try to bring, because it's the missing piece. You feel like you're always searching. You gotta find the next thing until you find the thing that gives you the hope. But yeah, if you guys would like to get involved, tpusa.com/get involved. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, so if you guys would like to donate, get involved, support our mission and our work, check us out on social media. But also we have a lot of really exciting events that we throw for young women. We have our Young Women's Leadership Summit, America Fest, which is our end of year celebration, our Student Action Summit, which is 8,000, 10,000 students. And then we're doing college campus tours through the end of the fall semester at a college campus, I guarantee you, near you. Some of these are 10,000 seat auditoriums. We have JD Vance coming to some of them. But best way to get involved, just go to our website, tpusa.com or tpusa.com/get involved.
Thank you. Please give it up for my panel here. One more thing before we leave. Sorry, I got one kind of surprise thing.
I'm not saying anything.
Yes, that's right. I want to bring somebody up onto the stage that kind of epitomizes the movement over the last month. And his name is Branson. Branson has started one of the first Turning Point USA chapters in America on a middle school campus. So, Branson, would you please come to the stage over there? Yeah, I'd like to give Branson the microphone for just a second here. Branson, go ahead.
Hi. I feel like I really wanted to start this chapter because when I was in 3rd grade, I had this project assigned me. It was historical figures who made, or not historical, figures who made great contributions to America. And the list had former President Obama, Michelle Obama, George Washington, and some other people, but this was in the middle of the first Trump administration. And I asked my teacher, can I do Trump? And she declined. She said he was too divisive. And no. So I brought it up to the principal, and I made my point, and the principal sided with mine. So I got to get Donald Trump on there, Abraham Lincoln on there, and Ronald Reagan on there on the list. And then in 6th grade, I started a debate club. It was the first debate club in my school. And I feel like those 2 events really found my love for arguing with, or talking with people. Talking with people that have a different viewpoint with me. And I feel like that's like a major reason why I started this chapter on middle school.
Yeah, that's great. Look, Aaron, thank you. This is just a powerhouse of a panel. I know you guys need the bathroom. We're going to do a 10-minute break, and then we're going to be back in here with Devin Nunez. So.